The European immigrant crisis is in full effect, and in one town in Germany, the immigrants or the refugees outnumber the people living in the town by almost 10 to 1. One of the biggest online retailers in the world has actually started prepping for its employees with 3 months of stored food and gold to pay them with in the event of any sort of financial collapse type situation. The debt ceiling is once again raised, and the U.S. debt goes up by almost $400 billion in a single day. And it appears that Obama may have misspoken once again, because there will be boots on the ground in Syria. One of the biggest online retailers, well, I don't know if it's one of the biggest, but it's a giant online retail, Overstock.com, made news, a year or two ago when they became one of the first major companies to start accepting Bitcoin as payment. And they've made the headlines once again by becoming one of the first major companies to prepare for their employees in the case of a financial collapse. They've set aside something like $10 million in gold and silver to be able to in small denominations, to be able to make payroll in the event of some sort of financial crisis or collapse, saying that they don't trust Wall Street and they're not fans of Wall Street, and they saw the financial crisis coming in 2008 and they want to be ready for the next one, which is coming up. And they've also set aside something like 90 days of food for all their core employees as well, which is awesome. I mean, if you had a lot more companies doing this, even individuals doing this, but certainly more companies, then anything that does happen within the next few years will be a lot less severe, because people will be prepared for it. And I think this is awesome that they're doing this. Not only that their employees will be taken care of, but also the kind of message that it sends gets it out there in the mainstream. And so this is a great company. I've never really done a lot of business with Overstock.com, but I definitely like the attitude of the people that are in charge there and making the decisions on this, because this could save some lives for sure. By now, all of you have probably heard of the giant immigration crisis that's happening in Europe right now. Most of the people referred to as refugees from Syria and other nations, but there is just a massive migration of people from multiple countries, a lot of them pretending to be Syrian, sometimes even destroying their passports to claim status as Syrian refugees. A lot of them are just from Africa or other Muslim countries, but they're flooding into these European countries that have basically opened their doors and let it known that they're going to be accepting millions of refugees over the next few years. And it's getting especially bad in certain countries like Germany, and in one small town called Sumte, I believe is the pronunciation, Germany, a town of only 100 people is being told to by the federal German government to take on anywhere from 500 to 1,000 refugees in a town of only 100. Like people, 100 people live in this town, and 500 to 1,000 refugees are coming into this town. So the immigrants are going to instantaneously outnumber the people who are already living there by a factor of anywhere from 5 to 1 to 10 to 1. And this sort of highlights one of the issues with immigration. And one of the big problems with immigration, whether it be refugees, whether it be, political reasons, monetary reasons, like people come up to get a better job, whatever. The point is that when that many people move into an area, it changes the area. And that's the issue that a lot of people aren't discussing, is that immigration like that changes the host country, usually destroys the existing culture. I mean, you can look at that in any country in history where that's happened. Look at the United States. Even when it wasn't a bunch of people coming in for a refugee type status, it changed the existing culture. When you have 10 times as many people as are already there who have different culture, different values, different way of life, then what do you think is going to be most dominant in that city of Sumter, Germany in 2 or 3 years? Do you think the interests of 100 people are going to be catered to, or do you think the interests of 1,000 people are going to be catered to? And you don't even have to make a value statement about which group's interests are better or more important to realize that this is going to happen. You just have to accept that for what it is. But when you do have a value system that's in, opposition to an invasive one where there's that many people, there's going to be bad things happening if you don't like that culture. And when a lot of these are Muslim countries that are sending people, and they have a lot of different ways of doing things than a lot of white Europeans would like, then you're going to see some conflict, especially when you consider that a lot of these immigrants are not coming over with the means to really establish themselves in these countries. They don't have any money, they don't have jobs, and they're may not be jobs even for the regular German people or the regular people of the other countries that are taking these. And now they have 10 times as many people in that town to support. And it may already have been tough to find a job in that town, who knows? But even if it wasn't, there's certainly not jobs available for 750 people. And there was another article posted where they said that people are already complaining about not having TV and PlayStations as refugees in this town, and you can see this is not going to end well for this small town in Germany. So we'll check back in a couple years and see, but there's just no good outcome for this type of situation for either party. I just mentioned that Overstock.com was one of the companies to start accepting Bitcoin before any others. And Bitcoin is in the news once again. It has rallied back up to around $400 last time I checked. And it had been, a year or two ago, I believe, in around November, it had spiked up to like $1,000 a Bitcoin, and people were coming out of the woodwork saying that it was going to be the new world reserve currency. It was going to go to $100,000 a Bitcoin. And while I was never a true believer in the sense that I really thought that Bitcoin would be taken over in any widespread sense, certainly not in any sovereign use by governments or anything like that, I've always recognized the utility of cryptocurrencies. And while I thought that maybe not Bitcoin, something is going to be used probably from here on out in some sort of digital currency. So the digital currencies in and of themselves were here to stay, and I was always curious to see where Bitcoin went. And it has defied the naysayers, and it has hung around. I mean, it plummeted from the highs of 1,000, which were a little bit inflated, mostly due to speculation, and settled for a while in the $250 range per Bitcoin, and where it has stayed for a long time. And more companies are coming online, being able to where you can use Bitcoin and things like that. So it's very interesting to see where this is going to be going and where it ends up within the next 5 or 10 years, and where cryptocurrencies in general may end up. But Bitcoin is hanging in there and is proving people right more and more every day. Despite being very adamant initially about not putting boots on the ground in Syria when we were getting involved there, President Obama just recently announced that there will be about 50 special operations troops putting their boots on the ground in Syria. And this could just be another example of him having misspoke, but apparently he says this is consistent with his idea that we're not going to be putting troops in frontline type situations in Syria. I'm sure that's news to the 50 Spec Ops guys who will most likely be getting hazard pay. And he said that we've had special forces involved there from the beginning, so it's not really in violation of there not being boots on the ground. So because he was lying about it from day one, it's not really a big deal that we're now having boots on the ground. So this is obviously not good. Something we all knew was going to happen. It was, I believe it was Faving for Liberty. I may be misquoting here, but someone said that day one, they're like, there will be boots on the ground in Syria. It was either Christopher Green or Fabian for Liberty. May have been both of them. It obviously wasn't a huge, enormous prediction, not to disparage them at all, but obviously it was pretty obvious to most of us on the alternative side here of the media and everything else that this was going to happen eventually. And yes, sure enough, it has, and the politicians once again prove themselves to be liars and warmongers. So hopefully it won't get too gnarly over there, but I do expect it to get worse. I do expect there to be more U.S. involvement in the future as well. So after a bunch of hemming and hawing about the debt ceiling, it has been raised once again, obviously, and the debt has spiked up about $340 billion in a single day. We're definitely going to be over $20 trillion in debt by the time the next president is elected or sworn into office, and it's just going to keep going. And I guarantee you that no matter who is elected into office, the debt limit will be raised once again at some point, if not multiple points, during their presidency as well. The system we have actually basically guarantees that this is happening, and it is just not a good situation at all. And as a wealth watchman has recently said in a video, a ceiling that keeps getting raised is not a ceiling at all. It's nothing but a symbol. Not even a symbol, it's just nothing but lip service to the idea that the massively expanding deficit is bad. And but it's in functional practicality, there is no ceiling to the debt limit because they're just going to raise it every time. So that's everything I've got for you guys today. I will try and stay on top of what's going on in the world, give you guys brief updates and my thoughts about the situations as I see them. There's definitely a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, so there's plenty of material for videos, and I hope we'll be making a lot more of them soon. Hopefully we'll have some more good news. A lot of stuff in the news today is very ominous, but that's what's happening in the world, so just keep preparing and keep on living your life and enjoying it. Talk to you guys later.